again.
We forgot to film. We were nervous.
Hi there. I'm Matt, and this is my wife Kim and our daughter Aria. And we have decided to become live-aboard sailors. I know, we're nuts, but we think we're in good hands.
Steer the boat to starboard!
Yeah, so we haven't really talked about it all that much because it's like, this is all new to us and it's been a pretty trying process, but today is Sunday. We have been intending for about the last 10 days to leave on Tuesday, like in 2 days.
Yeah.
My sister was just here. You guys saw a little bit of that. We didn't really film much, but my sister was just here. They left today with the holiday trailer and the truck, headed back for Canada with our truck and trailer. And the day before they got here, so 3 days ago, we went to turn the boat around to do some other stuff, and it wouldn't start.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. It started for 10 seconds and then it died.
Yeah.
And we haven't been able to restart since.
Had a mechanic out.
I worked on it for an entire day.
And we gave up.
And another half day, and then had a mechanic that a lot of people recommended out. We talked about options. He couldn't get it running either. We talked about, how to isolate things and otherwise. So what we just did just now was to run the engine from a jerry can. So that means that we absolutely have either too much gunk in the ray core, a failed ray core, like the ball valve or whatever could be a problem, or what do they call it, the little ball bearing thing or whatever, or there's like something clogging the pickup in the fuel tank.
Yep.
But it ran. I told you I could do it, but we paid.
It was so nice.
We paid $80 to a guy that's been doing it for 20 some years or whatever.
It was worth it.
And he taught me like a ton of stuff, like 5 times what the money was worth.
Yeah.
So thank you, Chuck. If you end up seeing this, thank you, Chuck. You're the man. The element in the ray core is the very next thing I'm going to do, is to change the element in the ray core because it needed to be done anyway. We knew it needed to be done. That was part of the preventative maintenance before we left. But this was life forcing us to do it because all of a sudden it wouldn't work. Life throws you curveballs, but it happens for a reason. That's always been my thing. Mm-hmm. So it's either the ray core element, something else has failed in the ray core, which would be covered in a ray core rebuild kit, mm-hmm. or there's something clogging the pickup in the tank, which is, this boat sat for the better part of the last 3 years, so there's bound to be gunk in the tank. Everything on the engine is working fine. I heard it this time. I heard what he was talking about. I heard the electric lift pump this time. When you turn the panel on out here, I heard it go. It
was priming the system.
Which is the lift pump meant to pull fuel from the tank through everything all the way to the supply pump, the medium pump if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And then that pump is what brings up the pressure to circulate some of it through the system and some of it to the high pressure pump. So part of the preventative things that we've learned through this whole process, one, we have biocide now for the tank that we'll be adding every time we add fuel. We're also going to do a shock treatment to the tank, which could potentially cause this whole problem all over again. Right? Because if it's got crap in the fuel and then it could clog and it could plug off more ray core elements and so on and so forth, right? So either way, we have the biocide. We've discovered that the auxiliary electric fuel pump, that's like sort of a pre-lift pump, I guess, which is also the pump that is supposed to run the recirculating polishing system that this boat has built into it. Don't know if that pump's actually dead or there's a pressure sensor that could be dead in it or whatever. So we've ordered a new one of those pumps. They're not exactly cheap, but it's a hell of a lot less expensive than all of the other fuel pumps on the engine.
Yeah.
And that will put, hopefully, our polishing system back in order. So even if we do have a bunch of crud in the tank and we do a biocide shock treatment, we can now run it without it ever going into the engine.
Once the pump's in the system.
Yeah.
The new one.
Once the new pump's in the system.
Which we have to wait a few days for, so we aren't leaving on Tuesday.
We're not going to be leaving on Tuesday, but we won't be all that far off either. We theoretically should be able to leave Wednesday, because we ordered on Saturday and it was supposed to be 4 days. So it might be here on Tuesday. We'll see. We'll see how all that goes, but we haven't really done a very good job filming all this stuff. We apologize. We're still getting our heads around all that stuff. For me, it's really, really hard to think filming
When we're stressed.
when I'm stressed, but also when I'm like problem solving something. If I had done all this before, I'm like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta bleed the thing and whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing. But when it's like, how do I bleed the thing? Where do I bleed the thing? How do I, whatever, it's a lot harder for me to think filming. It's been a couple of days. There's a reason why we got big smiles on our face. We're obviously new to the marine diesel engines. My brother-in-law is pretty damn handy with like all things motors and what now related. And I talked to him, I read a bunch of stuff online, and everybody concurred that, you know, if your diesel won't start, but it cranks, it's like probably 90+% that it's a fuel issue. Fuel delivery, fuel pressure, needs a bleed, air in the system, fuel filters, all of the above. So Raycor first.
You can sleep tonight.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've been struggling, but
yes, there's been some struggles. So Raycor element first, and then hopefully it'll run off the tank. If that's good, then we'll actually change the primary fuel filter as well, because it's also long since overdue. Anyway, that's the update. Sorry if it's long-winded. Alright, so the saga continues. So I got the motor to run again. I think I told you guys that, and then died again. So I think that we're probably gonna put this to bed for now until we get that new auxiliary pump in. Alright, good morning, folks.
morning.
So we got a few boat projects we're working on today. Namely, Kim's working on getting the last set of Valhalla decals off the boat. I am going to work on, I don't know what I'm going to work on. I think I'm going to drop the lower leg on the outboard and do the impeller swap, because it's not squirting water like it's supposed to. So here we go.
No longer Valhalla. All the letters, decals are off the boat now. My last pile. I'm very happy. I have to clean it still, but that's a whole other thing. I'm just happy all the stickers are off. Yay.
Alright, so my mission for today is I am going to drop the lower off the leg on the outboard and put a new raw water impeller in it. So, yeah, on this particular outboard, maybe all outboards, because I don't really know much about outboards to be honest with you, I need to separate right along here. There are bolts underneath the anti-cavitation plate, and the seam is right along the underside of that ridge right there. And that whole section will drop away, and attached to the top of all that is going to be the impeller housing, and then also the drive shaft and the shift lever are both going to be coming down through there. And we need to take the shift lever apart up top, and then it will release and let everything drop away. That pin is connecting the shift linkage to the shift assembly. So that pin, I need to get that cotter key unbent and that pin out of there before the bottom will drop away from the rest of this motor. Alright, so that little bugger was very difficult to get out of there, but that's that little split pin. I'll put that over here. And now, it was very difficult to film that, so I apologize. It didn't happen, but now theoretically you should be able to get a hold of this pin and not drop it. Put that over there as well. Step 1, check. Now, what the heck was step 2 again? Just kidding. That one's loose. There we go. So that is the lower starting to come down. And all things considered, That's probably as far down as we need it to go. I kind of want to switch to 10.25 drive. So we'll get in here a little better. This here is, I guess I should explain this once the jet is gone. Alright, so now that the jet's gone, I should probably explain this. So this is that shift linkage that we were disconnecting up at the top. This is the square one in the middle here. Let's see, is there somewhere we can see that better? This square one in the middle here is actually the drive shaft that drives the propeller and the gear down the bottom here. This tube right here is actually the raw water impeller out that is sending raw water up towards the cooling up top. So I'm going to gently set this here somewhere where we're not bending the shift linkage, and then these 4 bolts around this housing is what we got to take off next and drop the socket driver, obviously. Go. 4 of those, and then this should be able to be worked straight up. We want to keep that impeller. We want to keep it in the housing. So I made an effort there. This impeller was trying to come out of the housing and stay on the shaft. So I made an effort there to force it back into the housing before it came all the way out, because I wanted to make sure that this, the orientation of the fins inside that body, I wanted to make sure that I knew which way was which, so that it would go back together again in the future. Almost right away, I'm seeing that there is a almost guarantee that the impeller that online said was the right impeller is in fact actually not the right impeller. This impeller that we ordered has a keyway in it. I don't know how well you can see that down the bottom there. That impeller has a keyway in it. And this impeller is the same impeller, except it has a flat side in the interior of the body. So that is contrary to everything that online says about which impeller is supposed to be in this motor, which is a bummer, because that means you're going to have to do all of this over again. Well, I just realized I got this most of the way back together again before I remembered to turn the camera back on. Pretty sure I said, but in case I didn't, we're putting it all the way back together again because the impeller that we got is not the right impeller. I suspect, because I triple checked part numbers and all, I suspect that the, I don't know what you'd call it, the drive shaft, I guess, that exits the lower and goes into the main drive shaft. I suspect that drive shaft has been replaced at some point. So I basically got nothing done. Put it all back together again. Almost all back together again. I still got to get that fiddly little cotter key and pin back in there. Now, if that works properly. Now, that's probably a crazy shot for you guys, but that is, in fact, confirming that the shift linkage is all put back together again. So, in typical fashion, I didn't solve one problem and I created another problem. It turns out that the hose, the fuel hose, from the carburetor to the little baby inline fuel filter, it turns out is so old and so crappy that it is that brittle. So I'm gonna need a new one of those because I broke that. Getting the little inline filter off. There's a little bit of it stuck right here. Still need to get that off, but that little short hose goes like about that far to that filter. Hangs right here. So I need to get that piece off, and then I'm gonna have to order one of those as well.
It's getting warmer. Feel it.
Some mornings it's just sitting out on the deck, having an orange, drinking some coffee. Tea for me. I'll take it. Alright, so it is the next day again, and I am going to get back to the dinghy floor project. Alright, so we'll let that set for a couple hours or something like that, and then we'll see how she goes and inflate it then. And hopefully, we all good. Now, I'm going to start prepping for my next project today, which is the one spreader light that's out. I bought another spreader light for it, and our neighbors have come and gone a few times, so I borrowed their bosun's chair. I have yet to return it because I keep needing to do that spreader light. But they're here right now, or they were, and they went out for a bit of a sale today. So I'd like to be able to give them their bosun's chair back when they get back. All right, so we're back to 2 spreaders.
Lights. We had 2 spreaders, 2 lights.
Oh yeah, spreader lights. That's a very important distinction.
Yes.
We're back to 2 spreader lights, which is good.
Yeah.
That was what the whole point of the mission was. Yeah, we're all done on this project. We go back to the dinghy floor project. It's been a few hours now of that drying in the sun, so it should be good, and hopefully it holds air. And so that is close to the working pressure for this thing. Don't hear it hissing like it did last time. Oh yeah, still leaking.
Oh my gosh. How is that possible?
And the problem is if it was like like this one, when it was leaking here, somebody else, they put a big old patch over top of it,
Yeah.
glued it all down all the way around,
Yeah.
and they're good.
Yeah.
Whereas where we are, no matter what I do, there's this ledge where the edge of this one and that one disappears underneath it. So it's leaking here, and then it's just pushing along that ledge and coming out right there.
Yeah.
Alright, so I got this thing partway open before I remembered I was supposed to film. Boop, oh, there we go. And this is our auxiliary lift pump. This is exactly like what we have in there, but new. So theoretically this one should do a better job than the other one. I'm just going to move the fittings from the other one onto this one. And
Cross our fingers.
cross our fingers and go from there. I don't really feel like doing it. I was trying to call it quits for the day, but now it's here, so I think it's time. Come give me a hand for a split second, babe. You see that? Fuel pump. On and then off again really quickly. Yep.
1, 2, 3.
Off.
Okay.
So I don't know if you caught that or not, but that was the sound of this fuel pump working the way it's supposed to be. go. All of that back there. Okay, what's holding us up here? Oh, I see. That's what's holding us up here. There we go. This one goes up here. Oh, that was wrong. This one needs to be just a bit down. Okay, so that stuff that way. So the other thing we got in that I didn't install yet, so I was just waiting for the right time, is we got a new one of these vacuum gauges. Okay, so now the ray core is totally full again. I can literally hear fuel moving through the filter on the engine. Well, I think there's a very good chance that we are up and running. So yeah, when I turn it to engine mode, it's just pumping like just a bit of fuel, whatever is going through the system, and then back to the return. Yeah, there's no draw on it right now, so it's not having to run very hard. So theoretically, if we wanted to, we could start right now. We filtered fuel for, polished fuel for over an hour. The ray core still looks good and clean. So now I've switched it back to engine run mode. So it's pumping fuel through the fuel system, through the fuel filter, injectors and return lines and all that stuff back to the tank. So we are going to fire the engine, and my money's on it runs totally fine. See what we get here. Okay, engine lights good, engine oil good. Engine instruments good, the fuel pump is on. Give me a sec to get down on my knees here, and then I'll tell you to turn the panel on.
Okay. Panel on.
Okay, so it sounds like that electric lift pump ran the full length cycle like it always does, regardless of the fact that there was fuel flowing past because of the other pump already. I don't think pressure is what shuts it off. I think it's a time thing. Ready when you are.
Okay, you're clear?
Clear.
Okay, starting. She's going! I have to go make sure there's water coming out the back.
Yeah, please.
You
Okay, so this is the first time it's run since all of this started. Off the fuel tank, through the ray core. We still have a wildly out-of-date, overused primary filter, and that will still need to get changed as well, but we wanted to get back to a state of running before we did that.
She didn't sound super happy.
No, it took twice as long, almost 3 times as long to start as it normally does. Considering how many times we've had the fuel system open and the chance of air being forced down the line potentially, that could have been sitting at an injector or otherwise, I'm not worried about that. I suspect that the next time we start it, it'll start like normal with that, like, you know, whatever half second of cranking and then it goes.
You did it, mister. I'm not a mechanic. I don't understand diesel engines all that well yet. You did it.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay. Are you? All right. It's the next day.
Testing her.
It's test number 3 time.
Yeah.
So it sounded like it primed. It did its prime job, doing its priming. And everything should be good. I'll turn the panel on. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's the wrong button. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
That was what she sounds like.
That's how this girl starts. She running. We did it!
Yay!
I'm still not 100% about it. I think that's the nature of these things when you're new. There's a bit of trust issues right now that need to be like refigured by doing a little motoring and cruising around and burning some fuel and having it all continue to keep working. So we don't really know what happened and why the fuel system went all sideways on us this week and decided that the boat wasn't going to run. But as near as we can figure, we developed some kind of a leak somewhere in the system and gravity pulled the fuel back into the tank, filling the fuel system essentially with air, and the small little electric priming pump that's on the side of the engine, I think maybe just doesn't have enough jam, especially if it's full of air, to reprime the system, and then we didn't know that our auxiliary fuel pump wasn't working until obviously all of this investigation, and without that auxiliary fuel pump there was no repriming the entire system. I suspect if I took the US Coast Guard regulations, threw them out the window and put like a bulb pump in like an outboard has, I probably could have got the engine running almost right away, but I would prefer not to do that. Now that we have the auxiliary fuel pump installed, it seems to be working great. I'm going to change my startup policy to turning that auxiliary fuel pump on while I'm doing all my other engine checks and oil level and belts and all the other things I need to do, just to kind of reprime the system every time I start up the engine. And I assume that once the main engine is running, the other fuel pumps would take over and that fuel pump can be turned off. That is yet to be confirmed, but that is what I think is going to happen. Saga over we think.
Good job.
Good job, Atlas. Doing a fine job. Yeah. That's all I got to say for right now. I really hope you enjoyed this week's episode. There was an awful lot of things crammed into this episode. If you enjoyed any of them, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. We are slowly creeping towards our 1,000 subscriber goal that we're really working towards right now. So if you know anybody that is into sailing in any way, shape, or form, share our channel with them. We'd really appreciate it. And thank you for coming out and watching. And we'll see you next week, Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Have a good night.